Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The police are reporting that there was no negative impact to the flow of traffic this morning in the corporate area following the imposition of a state of emergency in sections of the capital yesterday. There are some concerns that there would have been further delays for motorists traveling in the areas under the state of emergency. However, head of the Public Safety and Transport Enforcement Branch, Senior Superintendent Calvin Allen, measures were in place to prevent any hiccups.
Happy to say that despite the state of public emergency, we are having relatively good traffic flow. It's heavy, however, along all the corridors, but especially within the area that has been declared. We have strategically deployed our resources, and at the moment we are not experiencing any serious backlog. The traffic is flowing, and what we do is to remain alert as to any area that we might be having any difficulty for us to redeploy in order to create the flow.
SSP Allen says motorists have been following the instructions of the security forces within the state of emergency.
We will just say to the motoring public to utilize the main corridors. If there are areas that you don't have to travel, such as within that area, then utilize the other corridors such as the Marcus Garvey Drive or the Washington Boulevard. But if you have to go through those areas, the instructions has been given, and so far we are having good compliance.
In the meantime, our news team visited several checkpoints across the corporate area, and it was relatively smooth sailing for motorists and commuters in areas that fall within the state of emergency. Only a few motorists seem to have been inconvenienced as their units were stopped and searched by the security forces. Persons we spoke with had few complaints.
Inconvenient in some way, but I think it's a very good look still. You see what I say?
Me say, the man ain't wait too long, but so much people dead. You know, they should have here a long time. I'm calm down the little boy them, calm them down and behave themselves. You know, see it? Don't you me like Bagwana right now.
Leader of the opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, is again reiterating claims that the roadworks being carried out at the Portia Simsimila Square were not properly planned. He made a comment as he toured sections of the road projects this morning. Dr. Phillips also had concerns about the bypass that is being built.
There are also many deficiencies, no provision for street lighting, no provision for drainage seems to have been made, no provision for soft shoulders as would be required of a long-term road construction. We want to ensure that the taxpayers' $140 million is not going to go in vain, and that at the end this bypass road will have long-term value.
Scores of production workers employed at Windalco's plants at Yorton in St. Catherine and Kirkvine in Manchester and Port Escoville are staging a peaceful protest over plans by the UC Rasal not to pay retroactive salaries as promised tomorrow. However, the workers were told this morning that the money owed will not be paid over tomorrow. We obtained a reaction from President of the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, UCASE, which represents the workers.
It must be noted that the workers have been waiting on this payment for nearly 3 years now. And we consider it some sort of provocation in terms of how the management have been handling this matter. We want to give 150% support to the workers of the plant because we know the hardship. We know that they've been waiting over 3 years for this payment. And we see no reason why the management has to behave in this manner. The management, in my view, is most insensitive to the problems that the workers have been facing.
And the People's National Party, the PNP, is raising concerns about issues facing the education system. TVJ Shamela Pullen was at a media briefing this morning and gives us a preview.
The People's National Party has just ended a media briefing here at the PNP headquarters in St. Andrew to address issues affecting the education system. One of the issues, of course, is the Primary Exit Profile PEP exam. Opposition spokesman on education, Ronald Thwaite, says he does not think the government is adequately prepared to execute this exam.
And you're all aware of the confusion regarding the material, the books necessary for that. How do you reconcile this? Here it is that the Gleaner reports that the Minister of Education says, don't worry about books. Education Ministry officials says GSAT texts can still be used to prepare for PEP. And then Loop News says schools were instructed to tell parents not to buy GSAT books. And the confusion continues.
And of course, we will have more in Primetime News this evening at 7. Reporting from the PNP headquarters in St. Andrew, I'm Shamela Pullen for TVJ News.
Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw says it's time for Jamaicans to take the export of certain crops more seriously. Mr. Shaw says what is currently happening to the country's import-export market is far from satisfactory. He argues that CARICOM states have been exporting to Jamaica duty-free products that are sourced in other countries. Hence this call to farmers.
Things like what we are producing here, cantaloupes, honeydew, watermelon, can be sold into those 15-member countries because they are importing it from the United States and other third country markets and not importing it from Jamaica. So once we are doing the production, we need to make sure that the markets are assured.
He, however, says that farmers and exporters locally will have to get their produce up to international standards.
Not just to our local hotels, we can and supermarkets, but we can sell it to third country markets in the region, and we can sell it to the world because we are producing at globally accepted standards.
Mr. Shaw was speaking following a tour of the Astrum facility in Blunters, St. James recently. In the meantime, Managing Director of Astrojam, Martin Sifkotsvitz, is again calling for greater legislation to deal with the theft of farm produce.
In other words, traceability. We have to tell everybody that you have to ask where you get your goods from, ask where your curry goat is coming from, ask where your fruits are coming from. The second thing, we need to advocate for our agricultural insurance. Farmers are gambling every day with their livelihood. So we need to get the agricultural insurance, and on top of it, now the third thing, we need to get young people in agriculture. Getting young people in agriculture, the only way how we can do is if we change the framework of how agriculture is done right now.
And of course, that was in St. Elizabeth, not St. James. Millions of dollars are being spent to upgrade a portion of the Montego Bay cruise port, however the exact figures not been revealed. Speaking with journalists at Saturday's World Travel Awards in Montego Bay, St. James, CEO of the Port Authority of Jamaica, Professor Gordon Shirley, said that they have created more facilities for cruise ships at the port.
We are building a new cargo terminal. We are extending berth 2 and building a new berth 1 for cargo. Because Montego Bay is a unique terminal in that it is a mixed-use terminal. It's for both cargo and cruise, and so we are spending a lot to develop that. And we hope that in due course this will be the best mixed-use terminal again in the Caribbean.
According to Professor Shirley, work on the Montego Bay Port is expected to be completed within the current fiscal year. He says the authority is looking to have the port fully operational by March 2019. On a lighter note now, as part of the redevelopment of downtown Kingston, Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, says the municipality is doing several things to encourage more businesses to set up operations downtown. Here's Kirk Wright with more.
From the look of things, it seems life is coming back to sections of downtown Kingston. The waterfront has been coming alive lately. Months ago, it was Gloria's Restaurant, then Devon House Ice Cream, and the Ocean Sky Bar. Last week, Ribby's Sports Bar and Lounge was added to the lineup. They had a soft launch.
We believe in downtown Kingston. We believe that every great country in the world has a great waterfront scene. And Kingston with the 7th largest natural harbor in the world, would be no different. This is a renaissance of downtown Kingston, and we're happy to be one of the catalysts for this change, for this upliftment.
I'm here to encourage Ribby and Don to get some sort of a floating dock, so that us yacht owners can take advantage of it to come down and have dinner in the night. Yeah, it is beautiful, and I hope that there will be further development. I am sure that anybody with a vision will see that it is worth investing on this waterfront, like so many waterfronts in the world.
Mayor of the KSAMC, Delroy Williams, is encouraging more businesses to set up shop downtown. He says the municipality has already begun the process of making downtown more business friendly.
We are committed to creating the climate for investors. We are committed to making the process far easier, more efficient for them. I know the City Engineers Department, the Planning Department at the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, they have been working earnestly at restructuring the building approval process and the permits, the amusement license process, so that it's easier for persons who are investing in the city and persons who want to create entertainment product within the city.
The mayor also says entertainment zones have already been identified, but it won't be a free-for-all. He says he did not want to name the zones as he was still in talks with the Ministry of Culture and Entertainment.
We are now in dialogue with groups of entertainers from across the city and across the municipality in terms of what they can do to add to the entertainment on the waterfront. So we are currently engaged in those dialogue. I know over the next week to 2 weeks we will be unfolding some of that.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
4 of the 28 fishermen who were rescued by the Colombian Coast Guard last week have been brought home. The fishermen were stranded after their fishing vessel caught fire at sea. In a release sent yesterday, Minister of Foreign Affairs Kamina Johnson-Smith stated that the 4 fishermen were treated for burns in a medical facility in St. Andrews. They were released on Friday and returned safely on Saturday. The men were met and transported to the Cornwall Regional Hospital by health officials, where they were assessed. 3 of the men were released, while the other has been admitted for further treatment. The Foreign Minister also explained that arrangements are being made for the remaining 24 fishermen and crew members to return safely during the course of this week. In news overseas, the trade fight between the United States and China intensified Monday as the 2 economic superpowers hit each other with the biggest round of tariffs yet. The details from the CNN.
It's a new era, financially speaking, for the relationship between the U.S. and China. Starting Monday, the Trump administration is inflicting new 10% tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese products.
Tariffs have really had a positive impact. Number one, our country's taking in a lot of money. Number 2, we're creating jobs like never before.
Among the thousands of goods affected, baseball gloves, network routers, and food seasonings. Chinese officials say they'll strike back with new taxes on American items like auto parts, meat, and clothing. But President Trump says he's not worried about the retaliation.
They said, well, we're going to do the same thing. I said, that's okay. We have far more bullets.
Last month, the People's Daily newspaper wrote, the U.S. is unwilling to see China develop and prosper and then surpass it. No hardship has ever stopped China from standing up, growing rich, and becoming strong.
I think it's wrong. It's only about politics.
As for Chinese workers, the news of the new tariffs brings mixed reactions.
I think our country hasn't been affected that much so far. China doesn't really rely on the U.S. like it did in the 2000s.
It definitely have a negative impact on Chinese economy.
In sports, Jamaica retained their title at the Rugby America's North Sevens Championship with a 22-17 win over Guyana on Sunday in Barbados. The victory means the Reggae Crocs secured qualification to the 2019 edition of the Hong Kong Sevens. They'll be joined by beaten finalist Guyana at the Pan American Games in Lima, Peru next year. The Reggae Crocs, who had beaten Bermuda 14-5 in the semi-finals, had to rally from 12-17 down in the second half of the championship decider before pulling away with a 5-point win. Meanwhile, the women's rugby team, the Lady Crocs, who lost 19-5 to eventual champions Mexico in the semi-final, came away 5-0 winners of St. Lucia in the third place playoff. The Lady Crocs also finished third in the 2017 edition of the tournament. And that's Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for primetime news on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Good afternoon.